Well, we always have like a plan B and a plan C, and I'm super like I'm discovering how I am. I thought lately that I was very disorganized, and I realized this weekend that I'm actually holding both. Like I'm organized and fluid at the same time. So like I'm learning to really move between the two spaces when I need to, the situation calls for. I have like a list of this is all the stuff that need to get done, but I don't
Mhm.
operate mechanically like a robot going through a list and like
Yeah.
a robot. I feel my way through it so that I don't get frustrated if something doesn't land the way my mind figured it. But as long as I get it done, I feel less tension, less tension, less frustration. And also, like I said, I'm starting this new journey with a client, so I need to get myself organized. I need to be on
Mhm.
point. So it's almost like this call of service is helping me also see through my day to day, like what needs to be aligned so I do this work in a way that is really beneficial for my clients. So I'm really looking at my life, my day to day, and what needs to shape up so that I can move and go on this journey with my clients. So that's been my anchor. Like, what am I called to do? What is my service? And how do I align my all the areas of my life around this service? And this is where it's so important. I think the Pisces energy of this full moon is to remind us, what is your service? What ultimately are you called here to do? And that should shift the day to day. It should shift. But if you're unclear of what it is that is calling you, moving you
Mhm.
forward, then your day to day will not be sorted out. What do you
Mhm.
think?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely rings a bell. I'm a Pisces sun. Yeah, my Virgo goes, to like 11th house pretty much. So for me, it's like working with community is a huge thing. And full moon circle on Friday was we had it like a few days before the actual full moon. It was really nice. It was packed. People showed up. I guess it's a full moon. People come out. And yeah, there was a lot of sweet sharing, and specifically one of the women that came few times already. She pointed out like how being at the circle, it helps her make decisions that are more of a like dreamy whispers or the idea, but sitting in the circle, it helps her crystallize what she really wants to do. Since she started coming to circles in March, which was right after, no, I think she actually came for the new moon in Pisces. So going back 6 months, she's also Pisces sun and Pisces moon. So she came for the circle. And since then, her life started changing a lot. She went to yoga retreat, which she would never done before. And then she signed up for yoga teacher training that she started like like a week or a few days before the full moon, but it's right now. So she statement she said she shared with a circle that being in the community is such a huge thing, and it helps crystallize things. And her being Pisces sun and Pisces moon, it's a huge thing, right? And like with that full moon in eclipse, it really it's very interesting how the circles also run, because a lot of people that come to the specific circle, they come with astrological presentation of matching the theme in some ways. Like we had a lot of Pisces somewhere, Pisces moon, Pisces sun, lots of Virgo rising, Virgo moons, which was like stunning. And some Scorpios, and Scorpios gathered into one side of a circle. There was no Scorpios on my right, the Scorpios stayed on the left. And right in front of me was Aquarian, like stallion in Aquarius, like making a clear cut right in the middle. And that was moon in Aquarius, because we met a few days before the film. I'm like, I cannot make it up. Every single time we come together for the moon circle, the way the people show up, they represent some kind of expression of astrology, of cosmic wave, and the way they sit next to each other, it's almost like they weave the energy through the room, creating some kind of connection, some kind of field that generates that energy that elevates everybody. And it's a community effort. I'm there to bring everybody in, I guess. I was trying to like figure it out, my role in the whole thing. I mean, as an astrologer, of course, I'm an astrologer, but you know, what is the thing? I call people in to the circle, and since the Virgo season, I'm like, I guess I have to make it a little more efficient, to give myself also space to like reset and rest, and not to be stressed out like pretty much every week, because it's every 2 week gathering. So to have it consistent and have community being informed in a timely manner to be at the circle. So yeah, that was a very powerful circle. It was very revealing of like how much it's needed, how much community is needed to be there for each other, and also the big piece of a mystery unfolding. You know, I prepare birth charts for everybody who attends, and I gave myself permission not to be detail oriented, not to look into the charts of every person. I just look at it, like glance it, print it. Don't try to like analyze it, because I want the mystery to unfold in a circle. Because I don't want to have my preconception of something guiding people to do things certain way or talk to them certain way. So when everybody comes in, it's pretty much like an oracle experience in some ways. Whoever speaks, whatever truths comes through, it's very authentic. There is no like preconception or direction. I mean, of course, I prepare for the circle. I study astrology every day, but the mystery is unfolding in the circle, and there is no control over it. It's like, you know, trusting the divine, trusting the process, but whatever has to be said, it has to be said without any filters. And yeah, that always comes through pretty magical, and people leave with some significant takeaways. And yeah.
I'm curious, what was the truth that seemed to impose itself on the circle? I'm kind of curious.
You mean like this last circle?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was definitely, I mean, there, you know, we had 11 people all together. So it was,
Including you?
yeah. So it was 10 from the outside, and I was the leading person. We had the sound healing also. So there's a lot of, you know, the first part of a circle, it's talking, connecting, and then we have a sound healing and meditation. And we made the point, the woman who is my, I guess, second part, Annie, she's a sound healer. She curates the sound bath, and she's also very intuitive. There is no like preparation per se, and she's a moon in Pisces. I'm sun moon, so it's just very also like coincidental, like not really, like we can work together because we have this sun moon connection, and it's very helpful. um and yeah, that moon circle was definitely bringing in, there were a few new people that came that had no idea about astrology, and they were so open to be curious and trust the process. And that was really, personally to me, that was so special, because when you're coming to a total new way of doing things, it can be scary. It can be like, how do I behave here? And the way we run circles, we have a very nice cozy space in the cabin, and the altar is set up, and we do saging. So there's some rituals that we do every single time we come to the circle. And as the Virgo season, of course, like the rituals might be standing out for people who don't do that. As like, oh, this is like, wow, like they do this thing, like the saging, and like putting things in specific places on the altar. And so yeah, I really like, I'm in awe, and like so much respect for people who come in and are willing to sit and go on that journey of me talking about astrology, and then all the other people coming in with questions and sharing about something that comes through. It seems like there was more of these relational astrology coming through this time around. Like, people were sharing like, oh, I didn't know my rising was Virgo and my sun is Virgo. My daughter is, like Pisces, and I'm Pisces. Oh, like my son is Cancer and I'm Pisces, and we connect on an emotional level. So there was like a lot of, I think, more than usual emotional stuff coming through. There was more emotions, conversations, and like talking about like, who is in a relationship supporting like emotional fragility of a person. So that was very interesting. And yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that it created a space where certain boundaries were dissolved, and people got to see that there are much more similarities than differences,
Yeah.
and bringing people closer together, which is really what the moon in Pisces is about. It's
Mhm.
about dissolving boundaries, and it's about, and a full moon is the tension between the sun and moon, and it's always basically about relationships, because it is through relationships that we get to know a little bit more about ourselves and a little bit about what the other person is about. And it's around the themes associated between Virgo and Pisces:
Yeah.
discernment, discerning, discovering something very factual that brings you closer to someone else instead of separating you from the other person. So it's
Hmm.
very interesting what you're saying, because this is what, the the moon in Pisces is usually very deeply emotional, spiritual. It could also be psychic in many
Yeah.
ways, because of the blurring of the the lifting of the veils, the blurring of the lines between what is physical and what is not physical. And it's also about releasing illusions about ourselves, about other people, and it's connecting also with the collective unconscious, seeing what we have in common with other people that we normally wouldn't tend to believe we have, right? The
Yeah.
sense of community. And then weaving into it, there's the themes of compassion, the themes of creativity, the themes of dreams, possibilities, and the shadow side of all of that. The other extreme is, addiction. It could be escapism. It could be sacrifice without groundedness, sacrificing it all without a sense of self, which is the other
Hmm.
extreme. That is what would be the themes associated with Moon in Pisces. And the opposition with the Sun is the creative polarity that brings the Pisces boundless empathy and Virgo's analytical discernment. And so I think this eclipse asks us, where do I need to surrender? And where do I need to analyze and serve? And it's a call to bring spiritual dreams into practical, grounded reality. And, we don't necessarily think about this, but true compassion is ineffective without practical application. At the same time, true spirituality is empty without grounding understanding. And sometimes this is what happens with people who just go to church praying, doing all the rituals, but it's empty inside because they don't know what are they doing it for ultimately, And the reverse is also important. People who feel like I need this connection, I want this connection, but they don't know how to get that connection, what to do to have that connection.
Yeah.
And because Mercury is ultimately the leader of all the energies that are in the sky right now, Mercury's job is to take the Pisces and Neptune revelation, the Jupiter connection to the moon and sun. In Jupiter is in Cancer, the sense of expansion of the feeling nature and emotions, the need to connect with other people, the Mars and Chiron opposition, Chiron in Aries, Mars in Libra, the wounding that could come from being too direct in relationships to assert oneself, and the need for that peace at all cost, Mars in Libra, and Chiron's wound about, in Aries, it's all about, if I try this, will I reach my goal? Will I reach my goal? If I assert myself, will it hurt me or will it heal me? That question mark. And Pluto also woven into that. So Mercury says, okay, what's the practical takeaway? How do we systemize this? What are the details? How can we be of service with all this information? And so it's interesting because usually we could get lost with the moon and Pisces, but because this is an eclipse, right? The energy is going to be released for the next couple of months. So the path to healing, I feel, and I don't know how you feel about this, it's through meticulous attention, analysis, practical service. Instead of a grand dramatic gesture, healing comes from adjusting our daily routine. It comes from researching the root cause of a health issue. It comes from having a precise, thoughtful conversation to address a relationship conflict rather than emotional blow up. And it's to ground the transcendence also, because we know we're moving towards that solar eclipse at the 29th degree of Virgo. We need to understand we have a narrative here. We started with a new one at 0 Virgo. We moved to 15th degree Pisces midway, and then we go back to Virgo, 29th degree. We have a full storyline here, right? And so without Mercury in Virgo, this could lead to confusion, escapism, psychosis, really emotional disturbances. But with Mercury in Virgo, the call is to ground all of this. So the energy is, the spiritual practitioner who also understands biology, the artist who also masters their technique, the dreamer who writes a detailed business plan, the empath who sets real healthy boundaries, right?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. I mean, having two new moons in Virgo, obviously we have the focus on like how do we schedule, analyze, plan, and we have two takes on that, right? So I think every year when we have two moons in the same sign, there is obvious like pay attention to that area of your life. Like what does it mean, Virgo? Virgo, like I've said, like you said, all those things like discerning, organizing, paying attention to earthy things, right? Like yes, spirituality, yes, but also your biology. How do you take care of your body? Yes, the trust and faith and belief, but also connecting to your temple, to your body temple, right? When you go to the temple as of a church, you have to bring also yourself, your raw self, your spiritual understanding where you are in the context of consciousness. So I think there's a lot of like attention to that, connecting connecting the vast with the mundane, right? So that's the Virgo quintessential, right? And I I think the other part is oh yeah, like so much grace and compassion. Like it is just considering what's happening in the world right now, the surrender, the call to surrender, and truly like walk away from some things that are just not worth fighting for. I mean, not in a way it's like worth. There is just so much pain and suffering, and do we need to add to that? And and a lot of these big problems are beyond our understanding, beyond our control. And I think the judgment part, right? Mars is in Libra right now. So it's like, how do we judge situations? Maybe we just have to walk away, like, and let the pause, the space, create more understanding, right? Like create more of natural this or like natural, how to say that, this integration. I went to the gallery openings yesterday, to open studios, to see art, and there was this woman studying fabric. No, she works with paper, but she wanted to understand how to weave paper by deconstructing fabric. So there is something about that. Like there is something about it. Let the things just like fall apart to know how to bring them back together.
Mm.
Because sometimes in that chaos of a human human story right now, like there is so much chaos, the wars and disagreements and fights, and just politically we can't really truly understand what is going on right now. So maybe
Well,
we just have to let it like disintegrate, and then we're gonna see it better. Like when we like when we let things fall apart, we can see the pieces that work and pieces that don't work, and weave them back together. I don't know, something like that was coming through.
it's very interesting. You were bringing in the collective stuff. Uh, I think what we're going to be seeing a lot coming up in the next few months is a shift of the collective conversation towards practical solutions and service rather than just um, trying things just to try it, to become more concrete. Humanitarian crises will be discussed in terms of logistics, aid distribution, healthcare systems, the
Yeah,
debate between protection and justice, the Jupiter Mars, will focus on legal details, legislation, bureaucratic processes. I think we're going to move from dreaming about it
yeah,
to doing something about it, um, and and letting things dissolve to finally see something how we can actually fix it. Fixing is a very Virgo thing, right?
yeah,
The mechanics of something is not something we're good at as humans. We're scared of what is um, unless you're very artistic minded, uh, um, very yin energy type of person, um, it's very hard to let go and see how things go, because we've been taught to function with our right brain since we're young, and there's a lot of woundedness, a lot of trauma around creativity, expressing it, using it, being more feminine oriented. There's a lot of woundedness, not just in men, in women as well. And that shows up in how we even relate to our own bodies.
Oh yeah.
It really shows up, because we're taught to use the masculine energy to address every issue in our lives. We're not taught the equilibrium between the masculine and the feminine. And so, when is it appropriate to use the mind? When is it appropriate to use our emotions, our sensitivity? And when we have, human issues, issues of vulnerability, issues that deal with emotions, the mind is not where you're supposed to go to. You
Yeah.
can't
I mean,
fix
definitely.
you can't fix emotional situations with the mind.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a very big one. I mean, I think that's the reason why during the circle we had a good part talking about the emotional support. Um, because we need that, right? I mean, like if we are talking about compassion and grace, these are the emotions. You can't really structure that into our life. How can you be compassionate with a manual? It's a tricky one, and it requires a lot of letting go, right? So that mind,
Abandon, surrender, exactly. And
yeah,
trusting, right?
so much trusting, yeah, so much faith into there is something bigger than ourselves that is in some kind of orderly presence, and we just need to we just have to trust, we just have to feel into that, right? Like feel into that, not to try to understand how the order exactly works. And it's a funny part about it, because like when we talk about astrology, people come and they want to know. They want to know. Tell me, is that a good time to get a new job? Is that a good time to go on vacation? Is that a good time to tell my husband that I need to purchase this big thing or whatever, right? And really, like, so that's our mind, right? Like, how can you like think about it? And a lot of times I'm like, well, there is opportunity, there is energy for that. Might be beneficial time to talk about it, but at the same time you have to like, you have to allow yourself to be open that things can go a different way, because maybe there is a lesson for you, but you have to learn about that. Maybe you can't plan that trip at that time because
Mhm.
there is a divine call for something else to unfold. And actually
That's that's powerful. What you're saying is very, very, it's it's hitting on something that through the summertime I was, one of my realization is that self puts you where you're needed most, not where you want to be.
yeah,
But how do you know where you're supposed to be? You're not going to know it with your mind. You must feel it internally. And the shift has to go internally, not through the filter of your mind. Your mind goes with the shoulds. The mind goes to that's what they expect me to.
yeah,
But what are you called? That is your soul. That is internal. And that's how you can align the day to day when you're connected to your soul. So the Pisces invitation of this full moon is to integrate more practices that allow you to feel your soul, so that naturally the day-to-day is reorganized so that it's fluid, not
Yeah.
from the mind that goes with this is what I should be doing, this is what I am expected to be doing, which are all false models that don't fit who we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder how that's gonna affect social media, because in social media there is this dream. There's so much dreaming with social media, right? Like, we look at these videos and these reels and these influencers, and this is all the dream, right? That they share about something like the cooking, the vacation, some gardening projects, so on. Or some just crazy stunts. Like, my kids are obsessed watching some crazy stunts, and I'm like, oh God, please don't do it. Don't make that dream reality. Go cook something. uh, but there is something about that, like, if people like uploading these dreams from social media on such a fast speed, right? Like a lot of these videos are like 15 seconds, 30 seconds, and it's just like, oh, next dream, next dream, next dream. And what are you executing in your real life? And I'm like, maybe that's just too much dreaming, and now everybody's paralyzed, sitting on the couch and just done. Like, I can't go and do anything because I'm in a hyper dream reality, but it's making me paralyzed in the reality of things of everyday life.
Exactly. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, social media is the current television of once upon a time, once upon a
Yeah.
time we were all tuning into the same shows, the same thing. Everybody had a set pattern, and the glamour was on television, the glamour was on the screen, and now it's the glamour is on in your hands on a day-to-day basis, and it's not like something that you had to watch once a week. Now it's every day, every minute, constant bombardment of what one ought to be like, but it's somebody else's dream, it's somebody else's.
Yeah.
And 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 it's very, I think it's nice, where we're moving, because Venus right now is in Leo, and she's not aligned in a good way with the moon and sun opposition, particularly with the moon. And so there's a dissonance, right? There's a dissonance. She's like, what about joy? What about fun? What about um, you know, having a cake and eat it, She's like, I want to be part of this, but I feel like if I want to express myself, I'm going to be considered superficial, vain. I'm going to be considered, uh, oh yeah, self-centered. I'm going to be considered, too proud, too expressive, too dramatic. What's my place in this cosmic dance, right? And there's an uneasiness between the moon in Pisces and Venus in Leo. They don't know how to communicate. It creates this feeling that something's off, and it requires a practical fix, a shift in approach. And so there's this need for dramatic self-love with Venus in Leo, and the humble service of the Virgo sun, the compassionate and dreamy empathy of the moon in Pisces. How do we
Mm-hmm.
how do we bring these people together, right? The moon in Pisces is a very different feminine energy from the Venus in Leo feminine energy, which is about me, the expression of what I need to feel love for, my authentic uh, self-expression. So how do we bring that? How the I with the we. Uh, there's a love language mismatch. And I think that we need to find a way, a common language, a common love language in the next 6 months if we want to get along, if we want to get this work done, if we want to move towards this deeper calling.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, so something may feel off emotionally in the next 6 months. Uh, it's, my way of giving and receiving love, which is, the Venus in Leo is through loyalty, grand gestures, the I always think about the guy that comes on your, underneath your balcony serenading you. That's a Venus in Leo, I love you, and I want you to love me back the same way. So sing me a
Mm-hmm.
serenade, right?
Yeah. Oh my
And it's
gosh, yeah.
warm, it's warm, it's big, it's effusive. Notice me, the Venus in Leo says, right? And
Uh-huh.
I want you to notice me back, you know? But how does that fit with the moon in Pisces and the sun in Virgo? It just feels out of sync, right? Like, uh, you know, we might crave dramatic romance, but we find ourselves with a partner who offers quiet, soulful support, right? Or vice versa. There might be some kind of vague sense of emotional dissatisfaction and it's hard to pinpoint what it is because of that moon in Pisces. So we might try to fix things by using creativity to perform an act of compassion for someone that we love. And I'm thinking, with the situation with my dad, who's, uh, found out that he's going to have to
Yeah.
treated for dialysis, and he's a Leo born, rising Sagittarius, but he has a Venus, Mercury conjunction in Virgo. And my dad's way of trying to deal with things is not to face things sometimes because he wants to look at the bright side of things. But
Yeah.
and he needs distraction a lot. He, otherwise he's always obsessed about the mechanical things. He's always about how can I fix this? How can I fix this? How can I fix this? But maybe stepping away from the issue could help him deal with it better than obsessing with the issue. And that's what the Venus Mercury in Virgo would do. It would just get focused on and forget the Leo need for play, the Leo need for life to be colorful, uh, to be fun. And so the moon in Pisces is the invitation to blur the boundaries and bring those parts together to communicate and say, yes, there's this thing, but you also need some fun. You also need to lighten up. Life isn't always
Yeah.
just problems to fix, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the only way you can do that is to go into that surrender, that space of allowing both to coexist peacefully, harmoniously.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's something about this invitation to let go and in a creative way. In when we watch with children and they just make things out of nothing, and they can just go outside and suddenly pick up some sticks and rocks and get into it, like create their own little world, right? It's kind of like that right now a little bit, like what surrender of, like, letting go of knowing everything. It's so important for our, like, a biology as well, for our brain, just to, like, give yourself permission to rest, right? There's something about the creative play. It's resting, really. You are resting. You're dancing, maybe you're painting, but you're really resting. Your body is it's in a state of flow. And considering, like biology of that brain wave, it's so resetting. It's so good for our whole biological environment that we are carrying with us every day, our body. And I think that's very important. And I'm doing again the art and astrology, and like this is like the weekend. This is the week that I'm gonna be like really inviting people to join the workshops. It's only once a month for women and separate for girls, and we are focusing on journaling with art. So like encouraging to use less words but more visual stuff, right? Like working with the collages. So going through the magazines, flipping magazines, and just pulling out pages that resonate, that make you feel something, cutting it out and making the art piece in your journal. And we want to teach people to do this more often than once a month. Once a month, we just gather just to get people ideas. But to do this daily might be a lot, but at least like once a week, twice a week. If you give yourself permission just to sit with yourself and take out the paint, take out some images, and make some kind of artful expression of your experience on your timeline right now. Like that's your memory, that's your, let's call this journal, right? But it doesn't require words. And I think that's something that's a good exercise to like really let go of like writing things, like making things in certain ways, and just like trust the process. Whatever expression of today it's gonna be, that's the expression of today. And I don't know, like how much you like doing art, and like how much most grown-ups doing art, but usually they don't really do it because they say, I'm not an artist. And we are all creative. We are created to create, and the expression of something has to be done. It's just our
Well, I
whole
posted,
beingness.
it's so funny you're mentioning this. I posted something about 2, 3 days ago about a C.G. Jung, a Carl Jung quote about play. And when I was saying that playing isn't just for children, I was writing that playing for adults is important because it allows us to find solutions. It allows us to get out of stuckness, and it allows us to understand ourselves better. And playing
Yeah,
isn't just through artistic expression. I today, coincidentally, I'm going to this gathering of people who enjoy board games. I'm going to spend an afternoon playing board games,
that's
playing,
also, yeah, playing.
see, disconnecting, and in a sense of community, around playfulness. So there are different ways of playing, and we need to ask ourselves,
Yeah,
where do I want to, what could be playful for me today? Because, and I think this is important I think this is what astrology teaches us, is that yes, there's a part of us that wants to know things and know the sequence of things, the order of things, but there's a part of us that also longs for mystery, longs to do nothing, that longs to get lost.
yes. I mean, that's definitely that, right? So in play, we will just forget about everything. It's
We
a different
forget
place.
about everything outside, but in the
Yeah.
process, we remember who we are.
Yes, exactly, right? Like we forget all about all the musts and shoots and all the things that we're supposed to do and appointments and schedules and so on. You just play, and it's a totally different part of the brain, but it's activated. And it's pretty cool because our society is forcing us to use this one part of the brain way too much.
exactly. And in psychosynthesis, and it just brings back to psychosynthesis, like Carl Jung, when he introduced the four psychological functions, he introduced the three most common that we've always known about is, mind, body, and emotions, right? Then he stepped in and introduced the intuition as another psychological function. Roberto Assagioli went beyond that and said, yes, we have those four functions, and we also have imagination, and we also have impulse desire. And imagination is closely linked to intuition. So playing more, creating
Yeah.
more, allows us to move towards intuition. And for most of us, intuition is one of the psychological functions that we least have developed, or that we deny, repress, or even have been traumatized around as children. The same way that playfulness and creativity
Yeah.
is also there's a lot of trauma around that, around creative expression, especially for boys, for men, because that is something that women do,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or gay men do. But creativity isn't just, your life could be a creative act. And I
Yes.
put a quote yesterday around that. It's just so funny that I've been following through this theme of creativity the last few days. And it's about also our life being the greatest work of art. Our
Yes.
lives are not meant to be a formatted um, path. We are meant to design it, create it, to make it
Mm-hmm.
look like who we are, not what our parents expected, society expected. So every day we are called to be the creators of our own lives. And you could only do that if you are in touch with the inner child
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah. I
letting
mean,
go that creative part of us.
yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, there is, that's what you mentioned about the trauma part, about growing up and something or somebody, usually it's a somebody that created that blockage, right? Said like, oh, you can't play now, like, oh, you are too old, or this is too silly, or that makes no sense, or whatever labels somebody put on the play. It stalled somebody's access to that area. And, it comes, of course, there's a always bigger story. The person is important, person who did that in some ways. Um, but it is so true. Like, oh my gosh, I heard it so many times because, I'm in that place of art and astrology and I hear it so many times, but I'm not an artist. Like, I don't know how to make things. But then I have also people who make themselves come and experience, and they will come and say, I'm not an artist, but I know, but I really would like to do that because I will have fun. And
Mm.
and I just have to stop judging myself, and I have to learn how to not to judge myself. And it's like, yes, you go play because you can judge your play. You can't judge the outcome of expression, but it's coming because you are so in it. It just doesn't matter. And having that feeling of not self-judging is number one feeling that you need to have. Because then it doesn't matter about the other people.
Yeah, I think that, accessing this fluid part of us that is playful and creative is in every aspect of our lives. It's just not. I think that it's just one of the outlets. Drawing. I sometimes do that. When I journal, I look around my space and I focus on an object, and I close my eyes, and what does it look like? What does it make me think of? And then that object, which is very familiar, turns into something completely different because it reminds me of something else, and that's what I will draw.
Mm,
And then when I draw that thing that I'm being reminded of, I'm accessing something about my inner state. What does it say about me?
yeah. Yeah.
So there's a
It's huge.
transmutation from something playful to some truth about ourself, about our nature. And I feel that sometimes when people are looking for purpose, for example, right? Well, the most natural way of accessing our purpose is to the imagination function. And this is one of the ways that I use, like I was looking at, and this is very crazy what I'm going to share with you, but I was, in my kitchen and scanning the room and saying, okay, how's my imagination function today? So I looked at an object that was vague from from far. It looked like a handmaid uh, in a position of service, with a traditional bow and on her head, and she was white and almost prayer, but serving at the same time, but also very. She looked like she knew what she was doing in her service, right? But you'll never know what I was drawing. What I was drawing was that handmade, but what I was actually looking at was a bottle of Tide,
A bottle of what?
a bottle of Tide
Really?
detergent, but it reminded me of a handmaid.
That's so interesting. I mean, there's a connection. Wow, that's so interesting.
And then if I go deeper, it connected me back to my Venus in Virgo.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I value being of practical service.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I value about myself.
Yeah.
So you see how the imagination function is so powerful that it is so revealing, so simple, but you must allow yourself in that space,
Yeah.
that Pisces space, to just lose the boundaries and lock eye with something. What does it remind me of? And then from that space, we go back to what does it tell you about you and
Yeah.
and what matters to you?
I mean, that's exactly, like the part that requires time, right? Requires space, requires like, we need to pause. There's no schedule. And I think that is in some ways terrifying for people because now we have all these alerts all the time. Like we have our phone has our Google Calendar and it's gonna beep every whatever time we have a new thing coming up today. And it never stops and it's endless. And it's back in days we would have a phone ringing, right? On the wall or somewhere in the corner of your house telling you about something. Now we have it with us all the time. We are on the alert all the time. We are on the mission all the time. There is no time. There is no time to just like let it go.
Yeah, I mean, the only way that we can disconnect really is if you put the phone off, the
And I,
cell phone
I do
off.
I do this a lot because when I have clients meetings, right? Like I just have to do like just turn it off. And then I forgot to turn it on. So when I walk through the day in my Pisces self, I'm Pisces Sun, just like, look at that. I have nothing to do today. And meanwhile, when I come back home, I will be like, well, we were trying to call you. Da, 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 da.
And the big drama, right? The big
Yeah.
drama, right?
And I was like, oh, my phone was off. I thought everything was good, But it's okay. I'm not going to encourage you to do this every day. It's kind of good when it happens, But it's good to have yourself. time of a week when you just turn it off. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter, you know. I mean, ideally, you don't have to work at that time, of course, right? But and then allow yourself to be guided, right? To do something that maybe you even didn't think of doing at all. Just a free day, and it's like so tricky to have this like open free day for like casual things to happen. And I did that yesterday. Um, I mean, I'm trying to make an effort after holding space, you know, for community, doing circles, to for the next day to have some unstructured time. And in Austin, we have open studios, and that's when you go and see artists and see art. And I just asked a friend, like, do you want to come? And she wasn't sure. And in the morning yesterday, she's like, let's go. We went, we had a great time, talked to many random people, had the best conversations, played with a interactive art piece that, listen to that, it was like a big wagon that was changed into a cage, and inside there was the sand, and it was kind of like a Zen garden, you know, surface, but there was a rake, and the artist did some kind of like Zen garden, you know, impression on that. And there were just the items of daily use. There were some sinks and some like things to like, you know, like use in the house. And I think that the name of that, power of ritual of something like that, it was so on point. Like
Mm.
I'm like, oh my gosh, Virgo full moon eclipse, like this is pretty crazy. It's wild. And then there were interactive areas of that cage on the outside for people to add some artistic expression, like some beads on the wires, some like colorful string things. So me and my friend just spent some time just playing with that, just adding whatever we felt like needs to be added to this collective piece of art. And we totally did not plan any of that and had a pretty good time.
Well, I think that this is, one of the points about this full moon eclipse in Pisces. When we look at the surrounding ingredients, like the there's a the eclipse brings this experience of profound emotional, maybe a spiritual climax that will force us to confront deep wounds around assertion, action, especially in the relationship arena. And the part, there's a part of us that is destined to move towards compassion because of that North Node in Pisces.
Mm-hmm.
And Venus asks, but how does it affect my heart? How does it affect my creativity? How does it affect my relationships? So there's
Yeah.
a personal tension between the desire for love and recognition and our sense of duty and also criticism, also discernment. And there might be a disconnect between how we love on the one hand and how we need to be emotionally nurtured on the other hand. And the solution is to use our mind, our practicality, to communicate our needs clearly, analyze our relationship patterns, find practical, creative ways to merge our big heart with our desire to be of genuine service. So it isn't just spiritual, I think, this full moon. It's all, and not just transformative, it's also deeply relational.
Mm.
The relationship between different parts of us, and how that plays out in our relationships. Uh, so Venus woven into that narrative of the celestial full moon ensures that the aftermath will be felt in our most personal connections. It will challenge us to align our dramatic heart with humble service and our romantic gestures with a truly compassionate understanding. So it's important to know where this, you know, this connection between the sun and moon is happening in our charts. We could
Mm-hmm.
read the horoscopes, which are general trends, but we need to understand how it really affects us on a personal level,
Yeah.
because eclipses are doors that open and doors that shut. And Pisces, we tend to forget, is also about endings. It's the end of a cycle, end of a journey to
Yeah.
start something new. And with Neptune and Saturn moving back into Pisces, we're going to be revisiting old stuff that we've been going through in the last few months to finally get it, so that
Yeah.
a real new beginning starts. So, again, that theme of it's okay if we don't get it right, don't be hard on ourselves,
Yeah.
stay in that playful, creative, joyful place, through the hardships, through the stuckness, through the glitches, and all of that. If we stay with that heart of a child, like you were invoking, we might see things in a new way, the real solutions.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. I mean, both retrogrades right now with Saturn, and also Uranus is going in, in Gemini, retrograding to Taurus eventually in November. We are revisiting some stuff, and yeah, it's it's gonna be surprising, but also expected surprises, right? Like we have to, we actually didn't finish that. We have to finish and close it off. But
Oh yeah,
eclipses, right?
I really plunged myself yesterday, and I invite, I guess, everybody to kind of look at it that way. Is what needs to what needs to end in my life right now? What needs, and how can I address this? I was looking at, you know, what should be intuitively my next step for my growth. And then
Mm-hmm.
I addressed my fears around that. And I made a list of all those fears. And then on another column, I let out all the potential of moving in that new direction. And then I stepped, I stepped out, and then I looked at both, and I matched each opportunity to address one of my fears. And then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, I realized, you know what? If I only focus on this, I'm going to be stuck
Yeah.
forever. If I only focus on the other side, then I'm probably going to end up hurting because I won't address some of these fears. But if I look at how both of them complement each other, then I can move beyond my sense of stuckness and I can address the issues as they come along.
Mm-hmm.
And so it allowed me to see, okay, these are all the stuff that I've already done, and it's led me here. But these are the stuff that I've never done, and it might lead me here. So it's interesting to see that the opportunities usually answer the fears if you're willing
Yes.
to see it, if you're willing to see it. So it's a little bit like that the next few months. It's about really addressing the fears as they come along, not in a very rigid way, reminding
Mm-hmm.
ourselves of why those opportunities are good for our growth, and to use those things to address the fears as they come along. The fears usually coming from the Virgo end of the spectrum, not
Mm-hmm.
from the Pisces end of the spectrum.
Yes. I mean, that's that's the thing, right? Like, I mean, how do we face that? And yeah, I mean, exercise with compassion and grace. Start with yourself, give it to others, and it's again like starting with yourself, right? Like, I think there's something about that, and that Venus in Leo, um, there is this element of like, I have to like really look at myself, and like, yes, you really do, because if you want to work in the community, you have to check yourself, your presence, how well are you doing, how is your health, number one, right? And it's interesting because, like, for example, here, the school is starting. I think it's like everywhere, right? September, it's like beginning of school year. And I had two teachers coming to the circle, and um but you kind of feel that anxiety a little bit, like how to start the new year, how to prepare a new year. And there is that, like, but you have to organize. So it's like, so they definitely going through that thing of like, we're starting a new way of teaching, and how are we gonna connect? Like, I've never done it before. What do I need? What materials do I need? So there is like, I saw in those ladies, the teachers, like, that they just have to bridge that. Like, there's the fear of starting the new year and doing a new programs and new children, and everything is new. So there is that fear, but then there is this opportunity of teaching them the new ways and how that's gonna affect them, and like how them as the teachers that they can feel that their work is really growing, right? So like, I really, like, I was sitting there and just like, whoa, like, yeah, this is bravery. This is being courageous to really connecting that space and coming to the place of service, right?
Well, there's nothing more like more concrete, right? Because teaching is a very deep calling. It's a very it's
Yeah.
a very deep calling. Not everybody can become a teacher. It really is something that must come from within yourself, and it requires using many skills, not just the right brain.
Yeah.
It requires many different, tapping into many different internal gifts. And I think, you know, to kind of wrap up our talk about this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, it's really good to remind that it's part of a cycle, right? It's a specific lunar cycle which began with the new moon in Virgo. It culminates now with the total lunar eclipse in 15-degree Pisces,
Yeah.
and it's going to end with a partial solar eclipse at 29 Virgo, and it reflects a journey of initiation,
Yes.
crisis of illusion, or inspiration. We don't know. And it brings us to a karmic mastery at the end of the cycle. And one of the stories that reflects this the most is the story of the Fisher King, the Arthurian legend of the Fisher King, and the quest for the Holy Grail, right? So the first act, which is the call to service, is the new moon at 0-degree Virgo. That's when, Parzival or Sir Galahad is initiated into the Knights of the Round Table, and his call is to a life of chivalric service, following a strict code of conduct and seeking to perfect himself as a knight. And then, that 0-degree is the seeker who begins a quest with a pristine intention to do good, be useful, and serve a higher ideal. It's the beginning of the journey towards perfection. What happens then is the second act. That's the total lunar eclipse at 15 Pisces. That's the crisis of compassion. So Parsifal comes upon the castle of the Fisher King, a wounded ruler whose land is barren and desolate, which is the symbol of the spiritual and emotional stagnation, Pisces. The king suffers from a wound that will not heal. And he witnesses the mysterious Grail procession, but bound by his training and intellect, Virgo, he fails to ask the compassionate question, which is, whom does the Grail serve? Or what hails you, my lord? He didn't ask that question. He didn't ask, what will heal you? He didn't ask that question. So that's a failure. It's a crisis of the heart. He prioritizes rules over empathy.
Mm-hmm.
See? So that is the eclipse. That is the eclipse. A crisis of the heart. Okay, let's really remember this. Crisis of the heart. Which brings us to the third act. That's the partial solar eclipse where we're moving towards the 29th degree of Virgo. That's the karmic culmination. So after years of wandering and learning, the knight returns to the Fisher King's castle in Camelot. He has been humbled and synthesized his Virgoan skills with Piscean compassion. This time, he asks the healing question. His act of discernment, seeing the pain and choosing to address it, it heals the king and restores the wasteland. The Grail, which symbolizing the spiritual wholeness and divine grace, is revealed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So this
definitely.
is what this is. We're in this pattern, this mythic pattern, and it's good to remember that the quest is not for personal perfection, but for a healing that serves the whole, the land. So the knight here represents service, Virgo, and spirit, Pisces.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we should ask ourselves that question. What will heal me? And in the process, heal the whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's such a huge thing right now. Yes, for sure. Ooh, yeah. Let's hope we all have a moment to sit down with that question and go deeper and find some ease in allowing this to happen, right? Because that's sometimes it's difficult to make that decision to like, hey, I'm gonna look at myself, like the boundary of like, hey, I need to get back to myself. I can't attend to this. And like as you said in the beginning, like the lots of people who are empaths right now, I think they are very affected by this moon, and they feel like that have like they are called to set the boundary to get back to themselves because they receiving so much from the outside. And yes, there is so much happening right now. So yes, to all the empaths out there, like give yourself permission to take care of yourself.
Exactly. And at the solar eclipse, we're going to be called to end something for good, to start something for good. And this is the preparation. This is the preparation of that full cycle, basically. And there are many different stories that you might want to look at, that reminds us. This is one of the stories, but I was thinking also of The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian is the first season. He's asked to do something, and he has a strict code. He has to follow it, but then he realized that he has to give up this Yoda baby, and his heart all of a sudden is awakened and realizes I can't just obey the rules. Where's what is it? That's not right. That's not right. Let's think about all the situations that are happening in the world right now, as you're saying, that mechanically tells you. I'm thinking, in the US, ICE. I'm thinking about what's going on in well, it's been going on for a while, in Gaza. Uh, what's going on in Ukraine and so many other parts in the world, you know, in our lives, in our lives in a micro scale, we are living that.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, yes. So I think the full moon is just about hit here in the 3 hours at 1 o'clock, I think, in Central Time in US.
I'm wondering here,
Where are you getting it in Canada?
it's a very good question. I have it on, I have it like I get messages like on my cell phone that hits me that tell me full moon, it's happening now, you know.
Prepare yourself. Go,
Prepare myself.
go.
But I
Get.
already know what this is about. Like I'm joining this group this afternoon and I'm disconnecting and I'm playing board games. And
Oh,
then
that's great.
I might have a big reveal coming home afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I was planning on going and jumping in the water. There's a Barton Springs over here in Austin, like a beautiful space. That's where a lot of Native Americans gathered throughout, thousands of years before Europeans came here. So the kind of sacred grounds out there. But also, it's water, Pisces, and it's raining right now in Austin, which is so crazy. It was so hot the last whole week. We had like 40 Celsius or something like that, and today it cooled down and it's raining.
It's very
So,
interesting because the session I had with my client on Friday, she began by saying that she discovered the power of water, that she had to exert less control, bring more creativity and more fun in her life.
hmm jumping into springs can make that happen.
And the big thing that happened on the first session was that she discovered I created a space to bring her towards her higher self and a symbol that could help her on her journey, our journey, working together, and also what she needs to learn more of as she goes back into her day to day. And she saw herself plunging in the water, and it felt refreshing, replenishing. She understood she had to do things differently, doing it with more fun, more creativity. That's what
Yeah,
her higher self was telling her. I didn't make this up. This client had no knowledge of astrology or anything. She just did the internal work. This is what her psyche answered to her. And we're in this process of Virgo, um, Pisces energy, and she has reconnected with her true power because this client has a sun in Gemini, but a wallop of energy in Cancer. And so she has this dichotomy between heart and mind.
oh yeah, wow. Yes, let's find the healing in these waters. That's the elemental approach to the situation of a full moon. It's the element of water. It brings the healing, it brings surrender, it brings the flow and nourishment. So yeah, I hope we have that space today, especially today, and for the next 2 weeks leading to the new moon in Virgo.